Hello, my creative friends. This is Heather North from heatherscreativeblessings.com. The stamp set I'm using is called Paw Prints on Our Heart from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to take the largest paw print in this set and stamp it into soft suede ink onto a piece of pattern paper. I'm turning my paw a little bit each time so it looks like he's walking up the page. Then I'm going to die cut it out using the stitched rectangles from Little Inker Designs. They have a stitching detail around the outside of the rectangle, and it mirrors the stitching in the stamped image. In order to get the heart punch placed where I want it to, I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper, and I'm just going to punch it out using that Stampin' Up! Heart punch. And then I'm going to take my stamp runner, and if you just press down, you get a little bit of adhesive, kind of like a temporary adhesive. And I'm going to place it where I want that punch to go. This will make it so much easier to see where I'm punching when I go to punch it out. I like to punch with my punches upside down so I can see where it's at. Line it up with that heart that I placed on there, and I've got a perfect little die cut heart. This stamp set has mixed fonts, which I just love. I'm going to take the printed one and I'm going to line it up on my grid mat to make sure that it's straight. And then I'm going to stamp it in soft suede ink onto a scrap of very vanilla cardstock. And the size of the cardstock doesn't really matter because I'm going to end up cutting it down just to make it fit behind that heart. I just want to put it in the center to make sure I'll have plenty of room behind my cutout. Once I figure out where I want it to go, I can see that it extends over the edge a little bit. That's fine. I'll just cut it down a little bit and glue it to the back of my paper. I'm going to set that aside for now so I can work on the second part of the sentiment. For the scripty font, I've decided to emboss it. So I'm taking my embossing buddy and I'm just rubbing it over my pattern paper, make sure that embossing powder doesn't stick where I don't want it to. And then I'm going to stamp in Versamark, and I'm going to use some early espresso embossing powder from Stampin' Up. I just sprinkle it over the Versamark and I tap off any excess. Ooh, hi kitty. Then I just take the remaining embossing powder and tap it right back into my little container. My pattern paper is really thin, so before I put the embossing gun on it, I'm just going to heat it up first and make sure it's nice and hot so that I don't have it on that paper any longer than I have to. Hi kitty. Any longer than I have to heat it up and melt the embossing powder. I have it on heat setting 1 so that it doesn't have an extreme amount of heat. And by the way, that was my son putting the kitty in the picture. He wanted to see what would happen. You gotta love working in the summertime. Okay, so I have Tombow Mono multi-adhesive, and it's a liquid glue. I like using this because it gives you some drying time. I can place the sentiment exactly where I want it, behind that cutout heart. But I also like it because I can use it to help flatten that pattern paper as I adhere it to the different layers. So I'm just rubbing it in, pressing it together, make sure it has a firm hold, and then I will layer it onto my card. For my early espresso and very vanilla mats, I'm going to use some fast fuse. They are each 1/8 of an inch larger. They graduate up 1/8 of an inch. I mat them so that I have as close to an even layer all the way around as I can get. For fast fuse, you pull it towards you and then you flick it to the side in order to get the adhesive off. My card base is soft suede, just a standard card base, and again I'm lining it up so that I have even edges all the way around. You could just use the Tombow Mono multi-adhesive for all of these steps, but I wanted to show you how to use that fast fuse because I think it's a really good, very strong adhesive. So here I am using the multi-glue so that, like I said, I can get it to flatten out a lot in this process. And you can see I'm just making sure all the edges are flat, and then I turn it over and press it in. If your paper is really warped, you can put something flat and heavy on top of it so that it will lay flat as it dries. I really rated my scrap bin for this card. This is a piece of red cardstock. It could be cherry cobbler, it could be real red, it could be anything. I'm going to take my small heart punch and just punch out that red heart. And then I am going to take this 10-second bow maker and I'm going to make a little bow out of linen thread. I haven't used this in so long that I kind of forgot how to do it, and I'm sorry it's not the best camera angle. You could use a fork to do this, or any other dowel system, or your fingers. I just wrap the linen thread around twice, and then I pull the thread through the bottom, across the top, and then tied it in a little knot in the back to make my little double looped bow. When I have it like I want it, I just trim off the edges a little bit, and then I'll pull the bow up off the top of those dowels. I'm going to take half a dimensional. You get that by just cutting it in half. Stick it to the back of my red heart that I punched out. Stick that onto the white heart with the sentiment. Then I'm going to take a mini glue dot, roll it into a ball, and put that onto the center of my red heart so that I can attach the linen thread to my card. I trimmed off the tail of my bow so that wouldn't be covering up the sentiment. I used another piece of scrap paper and the same stamp set to decorate the inside of my card. I'm just going to adhere that in the center. And that is my card for today. I found some wood grain enamel dots to add, so I added that as a final touch on this card. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you find some time today to get a little bit creative. Bye!